Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Unfiltered 30. I'm Ronnie, your pleasant host. So, today I brought along with me a very good friend, somebody that I met a couple of years ago when we were working together in the same office. And by the same office, I mean legitimately s- a foot and a half apart between desks.
Yeah, we may have been closer than this.
That's fair. So I'd like to introduce my friend Matt. Matt has an incredibly interesting story. So I'm not going to steal too much of his thunder. So I'm going to let him tell his story, and I'll dial in and ask some questions as we go. But go ahead, Matt. Let's hear it.
Well, I don't want to waste too much time talking about this, but I spent 11 years in the Navy. I got out as a civilian.
And did what as a civilian?
I tested nuclear simulators for the Navy.
Okay, so you were involved in the nuclear
Yeah,
propulsion.
in the Navy, I was a nuclear mechanic.
Okay.
On submarines.
And then you came.
And then I came into the Air Force to do special warfare.
Okay.
I failed out of that program. I got reclassified into supply, which is how I ended up working at the
in the same unit as me. So in the 6 years, you've been in the Air Force for 6 years, right?
In April. It'll be 6 years, yeah.
And you've been stationed here the entire time.
Yeah, except for my special warfare training in San Antonio. That's it.
What and I think we've talked about this in the past, but what special warfare were you going into, PJ?
Yeah, I was trying to do pararescue.
Okay. And usually the biggest discriminator in that is the swim.
Yeah, that's where I think most people either failed or quit.
And if you make it through that part, then it goes through the EMT rigmarole where a lot of people wash out from the academic portion of it. So it's not from a special warfare perspective, a lot of people do lose in either the physical or the academia in there. If you make it through, you're a special level of badass.
True.
All right, so you've been in the Air Force for 6 years, and break the news on camera.
Well, I have jumped through all the hoops I need to jump through, and I'm going back into the Navy.
So we talked earlier last week, you and I just kind of bullshitting. And I didn't want to know the why because we talked about doing this podcast. So I guess I'll ask the first question. Why going back to the Navy?
Well, I guess there's a lot of little reasons.
Okay.
But probably the biggest one is I miss the camaraderie of the Navy, which I just don't get in the Air Force. And then there's a lot of little things about the Air Force I don't like, that I preferred the way the Navy did things.
Okay, we'll get to those in a second. Let's talk about the camaraderie. So you worked on submarines.
Yes.
So obviously a very small population of people.
Yeah, everybody's your brother.
So you got 100-ish, 120-ish people on a submarine, and you're together from the time that you board a ship, BOAT, whatever the fuck you guys call it, until you get off, whether it's at a port call or your deployment is complete.
Right. Even when you go to a port call, you spend all your time together anyway.
Okay. And you don't get that in the Air Force?
No, not at all. I don't think I've ever hung out with anybody that I work with outside of work until now. And not that I even want to.
That's it. So from somebody whose entire life, from the time I'm 18 till the time I'm older than 18 now, we won't put a number on it because I know you're going to say some snarky. Hurts my heart, but not in a bad way, but just in the way that we've changed. I was a young POL troop, right? Put gas on airplanes, not the fucking smartest people in the world. Sorry, boys and girls, but we are not.
I'm sure you got some smart guys in there.
Fucking haven't found one yet.
I know one.
Where? I'm kidding. But we always had that like camaraderie that was inherent to the career field. And I think it still does kind of live a little bit out there today. Not the same way that it did when I was younger. I think that not only were you thrown into a career field that doesn't live in that world, it's also overcomplicated by where you're stationed.
Yeah, I hear that a lot, actually. That McGuire is very weird. It's not like any of the other bases. Everybody that comes here is surprised.
You know what the best part about McGuire is the location. The worst part about McGuire is McGuire, right? Yeah. Like, and that's coming from somebody that spent 4.5 years here active duty, and I've been back as a federal civil servant for almost 4 years now. So yeah, it's complicated, but the camaraderie piece is a big piece. But talk about some of the other little death by 1,000 paper cut things.
You know, so I remember when I first got to McGuire and I got put in charge of a section, and I was blown away by the fact that nobody was willing to help anybody else out do their job. So supply has a bunch of little jobs and a bunch of people assigned to all these little jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And theoretically, all of them should be able to do all of the jobs.
Man, it's all the same
Yeah.
same thing, right?
Yeah, for the most part.
Whether it's a commodity or a part or whatever the case may be,
Yeah,
it all
whether-
kind of does the same thing.
Yeah, whether you're turning parts in or whether you're receiving parts or whether you're issuing the parts out, anybody should be able to do that.
That's fair.
And I was flabbergasted that everyone was just saying, no, that's not my job. I'm not doing that. That's his job. He needs to come do that. And then,
So does that culture manifest itself in the Navy? So if you were and just work with me on the analogies, if you will. So you're a nuclear mechanic.
Mhm.
If somebody needed help in the galley, you wouldn't tell them to kick rocks.
absolutely not. Everybody kicks in, picks up their share. It's
What do you mean you don't have contractors to come clean your bathrooms on the submarine?
no.
Oh, that's fair.
I've cleaned more toilets than I can count. But to go on with that, I realized that the way the Air Force is, there's a reason for it. If I start doing somebody else's job, then it becomes an expectation that I'm going to do your job, and now you don't need to do it. And so I get why the Air Force is the way it is. It's such a big machine. It's not a small group of people just working together. It's a big giant corporation.
Well, yeah, I mean, in the case of you, there's like 140 people that do supply things,
Right.
Where that's bigger than the whole crew of the sub.
Mm-hmm.
But it's still kind of disheartening, right? And I'm not going to beat the dead horse and go back over the POL thing over and over again, but as somebody who, reached the pinnacle of enlisted stuff, it's disheartening to know that it's not my job. Those words have never been uttered out of my mouth until I became a civilian. And even now, even as a civilian, it's like my PD says, well, you really don't have to do these things. But you're like, you know what? The hell with it. I'll just do it because it's being part of a team.
Well, I think that's your own mentality. I don't think most civilians are that way.
I would.
Well, I should say most. A lot of civilians are not that way. If it's not in their PD, they're not doing it.
That's very fair in my experience of being in the civilian world for a couple of years now. I don't think that that's unfair. Okay, so we've got camaraderie. We've got that ain't my job.
And then the other thing is the Air Force has bred a culture of, hey, look at me. Like the award system, I think, is absolutely insane. Like
which award?
All of them.
Is it the left-handed, right-shoed, zipper on your boots award for being the tallest midget in the world?
That's the exact one.
Oh, it's
And
fucking
I don't have
wonderful.
any midgets that I know, but I still have to write an award package for them.
And somebody who's not a midget's going to win the award.
Exactly.
It's
So-
absurd.
So we're just writing all these award packages for people that don't deserve them, and we're lying through our teeth about what they've done, or maybe not lying, but overinflating,
Stretching the truth, if you
Yes.
will. Because lie would go against one of the core values of the United States Air Force.
Yeah,
Integrity, 61st core value.
and never in my career in the Navy have I ever been asked to write my own award package, and I fucking refuse to do it. I'm not writing my own award package. If you think I deserve an award as my boss, write me an award package.
100%. It's once again in my Air Force back when I was a younger gentleman. So 2000. Oh shit! It had to be 11, 12. I was a master sergeant. I was working for a senior, and he was not the most like outgoing person. Like he was very introverted in a career field full of extroverts. And he walked in my office to give me feedback one day, and this is no lie. So you know me, I'm a mover and a shaker. Like I just like to get things done, and I tell people all the time, like I could get more done in 2 hours just by networking than most people could get done in weeks. He walked in my office to give me a feedback, and unplugged my phone and took my cell phone from me. He said, Ronnie, you're going to sit here and listen to this. And he's like, you're doing all the great things. And oh, by the way, I submitted you for all of these awards that you knew nothing about. And guess what? Every one of the awards that he submitted me for, I won.
That's awesome. And that's the way leadership should be.
And I'll text him after this and tell him, Jeff, thank you. If he is listening, you know who you are. Thank you. And it helped propel me to the next grade. So that was a master I made senior based off of those things.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Right. And he was a good supervisor. But if you wanted him to stand up in front of people and tell jokes, not your guy. Not your guy.
Well, I mean, not everybody can be you.
Thank God. This would be a fucked up world if everybody was me.
That's true.
No, I will tell you, I'll go off on a tangent with the Air Force Awards program. It's too much. It's too much. Back when I was growing up, it was Airman NCO, Senior NCO of the quarter,
Mhm.
Airman NCO, Senior NCO of the year, and then one functional award for Airman NCO and Senior NCO. That was it.
I was looking at the staff slides. There's like a whole page of annual awards that we're writing people up for.
Yeah, now there's the listen. I was the recipient of an award when I was an NCO Academy instructor called the LULAC Latina Improv, and I was like, I don't even know what the fuck this is. Well, the chief that I worked for at the time, Mac, he was able to dig through some of these awards, and he's like, oh, Ronnie's Puerto Rican, he's Latino. We're gonna submit him for the Latino Union of Leaders. And I was like, I don't even know what fucking award I just won, but I just won an award. Congratulations. So we're our best and worst enemies, right? We want to recognize our people, but at some point we're recognizing everybody.
Yeah.
It goes back to what we were talking about before we started this. Piers Morgan says that toxic masculinity exists because everybody got a participation trophy.
Exactly.
And everybody has feelings now. I can't believe I didn't win an award. So, okay.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's a double-edged sword because that's like one of the things I do like about the Air Force is that we recognize our people, but I think it's way overboard.
Well, so from a Navy perspective, what do they do in the Navy? I think that they do like soldier or sailor of the quarter.
Yeah, there's a sailor of the quarter, sailor of the year, all these extra things I've never even heard of. I was actually sailor of the year, not to toot my own horn. Had no idea that I was ever even recommended for it.
You get like a parking spot at the NEX or something.
I did get a parking spot. This is when I was an instructor.
That was your perk. You got to park like fucking 3 spots closer to the front door. That's fair. All right, so awards or just like over recognition. What about culture? Because that was the one that I really wanted to hone in on.
Well, I think when I was talking about that, I think that's kind of what I was talking about, like the culture of just.
Well, I'm
Hey,
gonna
I-
pick on you for a second before you go, before you run. So in the years that I've known Matt, and it's probably 2.5, maybe 3 now, he's very proud of his Navy heritage, right? And you didn't leave the Navy as a E4 or E5, you left as a E7 in the Navy. That's important.
Yeah. First of all, I was a fucking chief.
Okay. See, here we go. Under his uniform, under his lapel, he actually has a Navy chief anchor stitched
sure
on the on the lapel. I was hoping that you were going to touch on that culture.
Well, I'm getting there.
Okay.
So like just the senior NCO culture. So when I made chief in the Navy, I'll be completely honest. I thought it was all bullshit. I thought, yeah, I did.
And then
I, they taught us like, hey, we're the only service that has a chief's mess. We're the only service that treats E7s like this. We're the only ones that have this camaraderie. We're the only ones that you can just talk to one chief to another chief. You can make anything happen, chief to chief. And I was like, bullshit. Every service has that. And I came over to the Air Force expecting to see that, and that is not at all what exists. I got in trouble for reaching out to another master sergeant.
in a different wing.
Yeah.
I know. I heard. So I did have the pleasure and sometimes curse of deploying in support of the Navy in 13 to Bahrain. No, it wasn't the nice place in Bahrain where everybody goes and gets fucking a assload of per diem. This is the place about 25 miles south of there that you're getting 350 and living in what they call a chew, right? And it was the same time that Chief Petty Officer season was ending, and they were doing their chief inductions. And at the same time, E8 results came out, right? Because like once they do their pinning for chief, then the E8 results come out shortly thereafter. And I happened to be there for both of those things. And the E8, the E7 that got promoted to E8, the chief that got promoted to senior chief, was having breakfast one day, and I sat down and talked to him. He was a emergency management guy, so EMer. But what are they? What's the? It's the EM rate in the Navy. It's
we don't
like,
have those in submarines. I don't know.
No. He was on like destroyers and aircraft carriers because he was like a firefighter.
D-Seaman?
Yes.
Okay.
And he looked at me and he goes, I'm about to be a senior chief in the Navy. I said, yep. He goes, did you look outside? I said, I sure did. He goes, you see that dining facility? I said, sure do. He goes, we made that. I was like, no. It's like other dudes kind of put that building together. He's like, nah, fucking Navy chiefs did that. And I was like, fucking get over yourself, dude. Like, you're not that fucking important. But that's the culture that the Navy has. We can make anything happen as long as chiefs buy off on it.
And believe it or not, that's actually true.
In the Navy. 100%. 100%. You guys do things that would get you thrown under the jail in the Air Force, in the Navy.
Yes.
Your soldier or your sailor does something stupid on the weekends. You guys train your sailors without disciplining them, but getting really close to discipline.
Yes.
If any of those things happened in the United States Air Force with you as a E7 in the Air Force right now, what would they do?
I'd go to NJP or court martial.
Absolutely.
For sure.
NJP, for those of you that aren't military, is non-judicial punishment where the commander can take some legal actions against you to reduce you in rank or take pay or even confine you to specific places like on base or your quarters for certain periods of time based on the offense. It's admitting guilt without having to go through the court and getting lesser punishment for it. Is that
That's
a fair?
accurate.
That's pretty. And then a court martial is no, fuck you. I am going to take this to court, and then the punishment gets uber severe. As a matter of fact, on the bookshelf over there is the manual for court martials from 2004.
You fucking nerd.
It's tabbed out from when I used to have to use it. So yeah, it's not an unfair analogy to say that the Air Force ties the hands of its enlisted folks.
Yeah, for sure.
So, what else about the culture? Like even at the E7 level, you guys aren't trying to help yourself in the Air Force.
No, there's no in the Navy. There's no. I've never seen a chief get an award for anything.
Really?
I mean, you'll get like medals, commendation medals, or achievement medals, or MSMs.
You're moving from one command to another. You're going to get a Navy and Marine Corps commendation medal.
Yeah, but there's no chief of the year or chief of the quarter.
Well, the unwritten rule in the Air Force is that once you make chief E9, there's no awards. I don't know what's right or wrong. I don't think I won an award as a senior.
Yeah, I don't know. It's almost like it's a requirement in the Air Force to get promoted, to win awards and do extra shit.
1,000%. A friend of mine, I won't say his name, was just promoted 2 cycles ago to chief in the Air Force. And he was involved in putting together a not duty-related event.
I think I know who you're talking about.
And he said that the only reason that he got recognized by the installation commander wasn't because he was good at his job. It was because he did this thing that was not tied to his job, which is really the most important part.
Especially as a chief, I would think.
Right. So I understand the frustration with that. And believe me, the it's not lost on me. However, as I'm looking at this platform that I have as a podcast, and I think a lot of the audience that'll listen to this, and there's the audience could be anywhere from like 2 people to 250 people, and maybe it'll mature more than that. Um, will tell you that sometimes I feel like I scream into the internet, but my Air Force is an Air Force long gone, and I think that you saw that, and you're getting ready to step back into a branch of the service that lives on history.
Well, you know what? I mean, I've been out of the Navy now for 8 years, so who knows what it's changed into?
I'll venture to say that the Chiefs mess hasn't changed much. You talk to our friend downstairs who's in the reserves, and the Chiefs mess is still the Chiefs mess, right? Like there's still some bit of brotherhood, but there's also some initiation that goes into that.
Yeah,
It's
as it should
not
be.
it's not free. In the Air Force, it's free. You made E7. Congratulations. Here you go. You're just an E7 now. Move on.
That actually brings up a funny story, or a funny observation
Go
I
ahead.
had. When I first came to McGuire, they put me through the senior NCO PES, the professional
Mm-hmm.
enhancement
Seminar.
Thank you. And I thought it was hilarious that a bunch of these master sergeants and master sergeant selects are going through this, and real master sergeants and senior master sergeants and chiefs, they're the ones setting everything up, buying us food, and putting things out there, and giving us this training. And those roles are completely flip flopped during chief season.
Right. So it kind of explained that. So when you get picked up to be a chief in the Navy, how does that work?
So it's like I can't get too much into details.
No.
It's,
There's a society and the brotherhood that goes into it. However, the people that are selected for promotion to chief are not the ones being coddled to.
no, we are coddling to the chiefs. We call them the genuine chiefs. When you're a chief select, you coddle the genuine chiefs. And that includes chiefs, senior chiefs,
And master
and
chiefs.
chiefs,
And command master chiefs. So,
and command master chiefs. Yeah.
so that's the equivalent of a command chief in the Air Force.
Exactly. And when we get assigned training to give, and every single chief goes and studies what we're giving training on, so they can just shit on us during while we're giving training. Like you got to give training on like what to do if a sailor commits suicide, and everybody goes and reads that NAVC instruction or whatever it is.
Right.
So everyone's super smart on it, knows every detail on it, and they just ask you these ridiculous questions. And you look like idiots every time, no matter what. You can't win.
Because they know the instruction and they've probably walked the mile in the shoes.
Yeah,
right.
100%.
Where the Air Force has kind of lost our way, and this goes back many years. We claim to be a service with an identity without an identity.
Yeah.
But I think it has to do with the fact that we're still incredibly young in the grand scheme of the American Republic. We're only 78 years old. So like we haven't even our testicles haven't really dropped yet. But you can't have culture unless you build culture, and we're not doing anything to build the culture.
I agree with that.
Right. There's something to be said. Listen, despite what you may think of the people of the past, yeah, they were probably assholes and womanizers and alcoholics and all of those things. They were pioneers as well.
Mm-hmm.
Chester Nimitz probably wasn't the greatest father and probably smacked his fucking kids around. Once again, I don't know that to be true and honest for legal reasons, but he was an admiral that helped win the Pacific War in World War II. Right? It's got an aircraft carrier named after him. We celebrate that. In the Air Force, we don't celebrate shit. We celebrate fucking Pride Month. And it's not untrue. We don't celebrate the pioneers like Jimmy Doolittle, who was part of the Doolittle Raiders, or Eddie Rickenbacker, who was one of the first people to in-flight refuel an airplane, right? Like, and we don't even study it. You guys do study heritage of the Navy.
Yeah, big time.
It's part of the Chiefs mess.
It is, and it's our job as chiefs to pass that on to sailors before they make chief.
So if I were to walk around the unit that you're assigned to right now, no names, and just walked around to random 10 airmen and said, who is the first Chief Master Sergeant of the Air Force? The answer I would probably get is, I don't know. Fucking doesn't make a difference.
If you ask me, you're going to get, I don't know.
His name was Paul W. Airy, and he was a prisoner of war during the Bataan Death March in World War II. and he was a first sergeant before he became the chief master sergeant of the Air Force. And he's the only chief master sergeant of the Air Force, the first, who went and did his 3 years as chief master sergeant of the Air Force and went back to the active duty Air Force when he
No
was done.
kidding.
Yes, he did.
See, and I think that's something that's awesome and could and should be celebrated.
Right, but we don't
I've
talk
never
about
heard
it.
of this guy.
It's fucking. I had beers with him, and he was from Boston, and I'm from New York, and we talked Red Sox Yankees. That never goes over too fucking well. He's like, fuck out of here, you Yankee. But yeah, but we don't study that, right? Even in your NCO or senior NCO professional enhancement seminar, we probably talk to you about like how to make yourself better, how to take care of your airmen better, which is incredibly important. But one of the best ways for our folks to understand what it is that we do is to understand where we came from.
Yeah.
Right. We say it all the time. The easiest way to, what the hell is the quote? Those who don't study history are bound to repeat it.
Yep.
Right. And we find ourselves repeating the same shit over and over in the Air Force. And in the 6 years that you've been doing it, you see a lot of the same shit over and over and over again. And we're not doing anything to try to fix it.
Yeah. And every time I get a new set of leadership into our flight, everything repeats.
Yep. Hey, we tried that. Yeah, fuck you. We're going to try it again. But it didn't work the last 3 times. I know, but we're going to do it again. So I understand that. So let me ask you this. So from an enlisted development perspective, you came over to the Air Force 6 years ago as an E7.
Yes.
Did you have hopes to make E8 and potentially grow to E9 in the Air Force?
Well, my intention was to go pararescue, obviously, and I had no hopes of ever making rank again. So I anticipated just being a master sergeant for the rest of my career.
Yeah, but there would have been some personal fulfillment and some crazy shit that you would do as a PJ.
Yes.
That's fair. And if you were to stay in supply and finish out the rest of your years in the Air Force, your chances of getting promoted
Zero.
are okay. So you're gonna go back and go do Navy things. I think you and I talked about like your on ramp back into the Navy is gonna go through some upgrade training kind of stuff, doing instructor things. What does it look like for you to get promoted going forward?
Well, it's hard to say because I mean I have an 8-year gap from in my
Fair.
naval service, but if you just delete everything in the Air Force and I just continued in the Navy, I would be making senior chief in the next year and a half. I'd get through my instructor duty, and then I'd be making senior chief almost immediately.
Wow. So if you would have stayed in the Navy and stayed Navy the entire time, where do you see yourself right now?
I would be a master chief.
Probably a command master chief at that point, or would you stay in the master chief world and just stay on a boat?
That's hard to say. I don't know if I love the Navy enough to go be a command master chief.
Why you wouldn't stay on a sub as a CMC?
No, well, that's called a cob, chief of the boat. It's kind of the same thing. But the highest.
That's the fat guy in fucking Crimson Tide.
Yeah, it is.
George Wendt, not George Wendt. George Zunza was the guy who played him in Crimson Tide.
Why does your brain work the way it does?
I don't fucking know, but it's good, isn't it? Like he was also in Law and Order in the first couple of seasons.
Which episode?
All of the first two or three seasons. He got killed off.
Okay. But so it's weird. Like the nuclear world and the regular Navy world are a little bit different. So you could have the EDMC as the engineering department master chief. He can outrank the chief of the boat.
Yeah, but because you're running the propulsion, but the chief of the boat's just steering the goddamn thing.
Yeah, but technically the chief of the boat's in charge of all of it.
That's fair.
But he can be a senior chief while the EDMC can be a master chief. So that is possible. So they're kind of equivalent,
but
they're not really.
That's fair. That's the difference between being onshore and underway, right? Because
I don't know if those are equivalent.
That's fair. That's fair. There's a couple stories that I've heard from Matt over the last couple of years that it's fucking amazing stories.
I don't know if I want those recorded.
That would never, ever, ever get recorded on a podcast. But anybody who wants to call and ask me the questions, I got a couple of fucking doozies for you. So what do you see as like you're gonna go do instructor duty and then?
Well, I'll go instructor duty, and then I'll definitely go back to another submarine. I'm trying to go to. It's called a PCU, pre-commissioning unit. So that one will be being as it's being built.
As it's being built, okay.
Um, so I'll be on that for a few years, and during that time is when I'll be able to qualify EDMC,
Okay.
Engineering Department Master Chief, and that's the next highest level, and that's a requirement for me to make E8.
Okay.
At least it used to be. I haven't read what the requirements are now, but I doubt they've changed.
So, just out of curiosity, so the Air Force kind of gives you a little bit more predictability in like what your deployment rhythm kind of looks like. And I'm gonna keep this as unclassed as I can keep it unclassed. The world is a very complicated place right now.
Mhm.
Um, do you have any concerns with going back into the Navy? Because if you look at the world that we live in right now, the Navy is spread out all throughout the world, and they're
Well, that's another reason I want to go back to the Navy because I think they're the ones that are going to be doing some cool shit.
well, those who don't learn from history, 1942 to 1945, the Pacific was won by the Navy and the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
Um, and I can have a whole podcast of me just screaming into the internet about that. That's not unfair. So I need you to get this to other folks. What's the longest you spent in a submarine without seeing the sun?
Well, my longest was 72 days, but that's not even that long. Lots of people go way longer than that.
How the fuck long can you go?
I think the record is set by an English boat. They're like 200 and something days.
Don't you go stir crazy at some point though?
Some people do.
But how do you shut your brain off from like, oh fuck, I can't talk to, you know, my friends or and at some point, don't you just get tired of looking at the same 119 other fucking faces?
Yeah, for sure. I used to have this hour-long period when I first got on watch. I would be like, nobody fucking talk to me. I'm gonna sit over here. I'm gonna drink my coffee. You can come over here and drink coffee with me. I called it my tea party. You guys can come sit over here, but don't fucking talk to me.
Shit. There's a guy I worked with that his rule was don't talk to me before 9:30. Bitch, we started work at 7 o'clock. You don't get 2.5 hours. I fucking work for you. Guess what? We got 2.5 hours. You know who you are.
I think that's awesome.
He was fucking off camera. I got a couple of funny stories about him. So I just I understand it, but it hurts me, right? Because the Air Force is hemorrhaging good people.
Well, I don't think they're hemorrhaging me. I suck at supply. I don't give a fuck about it.
Yeah, but process is process. People are people, right? So, the people that worked with you downstairs loved working with you because you know how to get along. You're not an asshole unless you have to be an asshole. We call people fat when they have to be called fat.
Sometimes you gotta do it.
Um, and the Air Force has gotten away from taking care of people that take care of people and only taking care of people that take care of themselves.
It's true, and you have to be one of those people that take care of yourselves to get promoted in the Air Force. At least from my perspective, that's what it looks like to me.
Yeah, and that's the disheartening part for me because I think that and there's going to be people that watch this that like, killing's full of shit. But I don't. I feel like in my heart of hearts that I never stepped on anybody's face to get ahead in the United States Air Force, and I feel like all we've created over the last several years is a corporation that fancies itself a warfighter that does nothing more than step on each other to get ahead.
I think that's a fair assessment.
Um, and I hope that when you go back to the Navy, it doesn't turn out to be this just in a boat.
I don't think it will. I think maybe Navy overall may have shifted in the same direction, but I highly doubt that the submarine force has.
I keep my fingers crossed for you, Matt. So I'll ask you this: any parting shots before we sign off for this one?
No, I think we've covered pretty much everything.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's another episode by the wayside. And oh, by the way, what I really would like is some comments. I think Matt has a lot of good to tell about why the Air Force is in the place that it's at. I think we just scratched the surface a little bit because we were trying to keep it as agnostic as possible. But if you do get a chance to listen, all the feedback is welcome, and please give us some ideas for some episodes coming up soon. And we will see you on the other side.